Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about the Road Dogg, Jesse James, saying ain't no money in wrestling. So this got people really upset, mainly because Road Dogg mentioned Tony Khan in certain part of this. And we're not going to talk about that quote specifically. We're going to talk about the entire context of the quote, because I think it's a very interesting quote. That me personally, I find it to be very interesting. It's a subject that I think we should be looking more into. So here is the context of the quote. He was asking about, people were asking him about how to make it in wrestling. And he says, quote, "People want to be entertained. Jamie Dundee said one time, there ain't a dime in wrestling. I believe that now. There's very few just really good wrestlers. What? You can count on 5 or 10 tops? But the ones that are most famous were horrible in the ring. We can go down the list. I say horrible. I don't mean that as everything is hyperbole these days. They just weren't great workers. They had something other than that people have grabbed onto. They wanted emotional investment into this character, into this talent, into this guy. I have to be emotionally invested in him. If I'm not, it doesn't count. None of it matters. Wins, losses, it doesn't matter. If you don't make an emotional attachment to the viewing audience or the live event attendee, you might as well pack it up." And then he says later on about the Gun Brothers, the Gun Club. They're really good. They're learning how to work. It's not to get Uncle Dave to give them a 5-star match. It's to be entertaining. It's to entertain people. If you ask me, that's the name of the game. If there was money in wrestling, Tony Khan wouldn't have had to buy Ring of Honor back. It would have never gone out of business because they had great wrestling. But people want to be entertained too. You got to give them a little glitz and glamour. You got to give them a little carny. That's the entire quote. That's the full context of the quote. So many people got caught up in, well, if there was money in wrestling, Tony Khan wouldn't have had to buy Ring of Honor. Oh. It's like, bro, you got so tight-ass that you missed the gems. This is a pearls before swine argument. That's why we're not going to the peanut gallery this time. This is a pearls before swine situation. And almost the exact same time this blows up on the internet, Jim Cornette puts out a video where he's talking about AEW spending all this money on video games. And in that clip, he says, Vince has won every wrestling war he's been in, not by having a superior product, but by having a superior business. What that includes, what he was talking about, what Cornette and Brian Last were talking about, was putting the right people in the right places. Hiring the right guys to help sell tickets, to do the merchandising, all that kind of stuff. Yes, that's part of the way the machine works so well. Another part of why the machine works so well is that Vince does not focus on the ring. He focuses on everything outside of the ring. Even the absurdities that WWE does is the reason why it's so popular. He does not focus on that goddamn ring. I've been yelling on this channel for at least a year now that people put too much focus on what's going on in that fucking ring. Ignore the ring sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta ignore the fucking ring and pretend it ain't there. Sometimes the ring is just a stage where shit happens. Where we do food fights, we do debates, we argue, we monologue, we do comedy segments, we do weddings in the fucking ring. The ring is not a sacred space where all we do is athletic endeavors. If you want to do that, you're going to go down the shitter. The ring is a stage, and if you learn that the ring is a stage and that shit happens in that ring to make people forget that it's a wrestling ring. Half the time, especially like on Raw or something like that, people forget that it's a wrestling ring. You have to, duck to get in there and everything, but people forget that it's a wrestling ring. It's just a stage. And this is what Road Dogg is saying. He's not just saying wins and losses don't matter, which is another thing that they've said. Oh, he's dying on that hill. He's saying once you have an emotional investment with the audience, that stuff ticks up even more. That's what he's saying. He's saying the entertainment is what's important. Nobody thought that Randy Savage was a loser, because I guarantee you most of the matches that you remember from Randy Savage, some of his finest moments, were matches that he lost. Yes, he has to win in order to lose, for his losses to mean something. But he lost. His story, his years-long arc with Elizabeth, almost all of it took place in the ring. Almost all of it took place in the ring. When he got down on one knee to propose to Elizabeth, it was in the middle of the ring. When they got married, it was in the middle of the ring. You know what I'm saying? When they had their wedding, it was in the middle of the ring. When Randy Savage got jumped by Jake the Snake Roberts and bit by a snake, they were in the ring. The ring is just a stage. It's where things happen. And it's a reimagining of wrestling. I get it. Some people are very, very sensitive about this subject. You have the old Bill Watts brain that this is for athletic endeavors. That's what you think the ring is for. Vince McMahon looks at the ring as a stage. And I used to get concerned that WWE gave away too much. That all this backstage stuff and, the shoot interviews with the producers and they're telling everybody too much. And it's like, no matter what WWE says, there's always going to be people who are going to try to swim the other way. They telling you what works. Various producers, it's always like WWE producers like Shane Helms or Road Dogg or somebody else. They'll go out there and they say, this is what we did. And people will say, that's stupid. This is what we think. And that's dumb. Wins and losses don't matter. That's dumb. Why are you throwing fights or food fights? It's like, because people get involved with that shit. They ain't doing it because they just like to do it. They do it because other people like to do it. Because other people would like to see that. It doesn't matter if you want to see it. There's hundreds of millions of other people out there who are enticed by this kind of stuff. I'll never forget. I was watching Mid-South Wrestling on the Peacock. In fact, it was on the network before Peacock, because it was easier to watch stuff then. And I got to the episode of Mid-South Wrestling where Bill Watts was absolutely having a conniption about something the WWF was doing. What they had done was put Mean Gene Okerlund and Hulk Hogan in a tag team. It wasn't like WrestleMania or anything like that. It wasn't some huge event. It was I think a house show, actually. It was pretty big. But it was Hulk Hogan and Mean Gene Okerlund in a match, as a tag team. And that really forced Bill Watts to just have an absolute meltdown on It was hilarious. But he didn't get it. Vince is not looking at this ring that way. He looked at it as Mean Gene Okerlund is somebody that people love. If you pair him up with Hulk Hogan, it gets Hulk Hogan over even more. He fights for himself, but he's not a wrestler. So you don't position him as a wrestler. You may put him in a position where he might have to fight for himself, but it's really just a position for Hogan to save him and help him. That's the thing. He's Hogan's little buddy. He's like Jimmy Olsen, and Hogan is Superman. It's not, Mean Gene Okerlund is going to get in there and be an equal wrestler to all these other guys. It's like, no. They used to do this stuff all the time with managers and wrestling events where the manager will go in there and take a bunch of bumps and get knocked down and everything. It was a similar concept. But he got so mad. And that's when I was like, Bill Watts is a genius when it comes to wrestling. But he don't know shit about show business. And that's what they is. They're in show business. And I know that's sports entertainment in a nutshell. It's show business. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's a little bit of sports. It's a little bit of soap opera. It's a little bit of circus. It's a little bit of everything. And people they come to there to see everything, to see a little bit of everything. Yes, they want to see matches. So Vince Russo is wrong. Well, nobody cares about the matches. Like, no. If they care about the performers, they will care about the match. You got to get them to care about the performers first. That's the thing. You can't have 15-minute cold matches. You can't do that. There's very few people who are interested in that. And that's what Road Dogg is saying. There's very few people who are interested in a good wrestling match for the sake of good wrestling match. What he's saying is, if you take even a mediocre worker and you can get people to believe in him or to care about him, then they will retroactively say that his match was good, even if it was the shits. Look at the Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior has never had a top 15, top 25 match ever. Ever. No match that he's ever been a part of has been technically good. But how many of them are memorable? Almost all of them. The matches with Rick Rude. The match with Randy Savage. The Hogan match. The Hogan match is probably one of the worst matches ever. Probably, it could have been, from a technical standpoint, one of the worst main events in WrestleMania history. Nobody was bored watching it. People were screaming. They were so into it that they did something as simple as a test of strength, and people were in on it. Simple body slams. People were biting on it. The finish was as simplistic as possible. It was dumbed down to the nth degree. It was not a great match. You've probably seen better matches on Raw within the last 2 or 3 years than you have seen Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. But it does not matter. Does not matter. Nobody was as over as Hogan and Warrior. And that's what matters. And that's what Road Dogg is saying. Road Dogg is saying, if you get a guy to a certain point, wins and losses don't matter. The Rock lost to Hurricane Helms, I think the same week he beat Steve Austin. And guess what? Nobody cares that he lost to Hurricane Helms. Nobody walked away saying, you know what? The Rock lost to Hurricane Helms. There's no way he could beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's like, come on. Did you not watch that? I remember the whole conversation. I think Sean Waltman, who was a producer for a little while, or was it Shane Helms? I think it was Shane Helms, not X-Pac. But he used to bitch about Meltzer, saying that Meltzer doesn't even understand our job. How can he tell us whether we're good or bad at it? And people were like, well, we know what your job is. He was like, no, you don't. Because it's not traditional pro wrestling. You know, sometimes your job is to go in there and make another person look good. And therefore, you won't do all of your best stuff. You know, this is a big AEW problem, where the champion gets hits with all kinds of big power moves from some guy nobody knows. And it's like, why are you making your champion look weak? Well, he gotta look vulnerable so that the other guy can look, that he can look good when he beats the guy. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't you just beat him? He's a champion. Just beat the fucking guy. I mean, big deal. I remember watching the champion Russell mid-carders on, Superstars or something like that. One of my favorite matches was 1-2-3 Kid versus Shawn Michaels shortly after Shawn Michaels won the title. They had a match on Superstars. Pretty good match. They didn't let 1-2-3 Kid put Shawn in too much danger. They didn't job Kid out, completely. Plus he was Shawn's buddy, so he didn't job him out completely. But they didn't let Kid really wreck Shawn Michaels. They made sure that you saw that there was a difference between the new heavyweight champion of the world and an up-and-comer in the 1-2-3 Kid. There's a healthy difference between the two. That's storytelling. That's also investment. Because, yes, you're into Shawn Michaels. You want to see Shawn Michaels win. But you gotta give Kid a little something to put him in danger, to get people very interested in the match, instead of just saying, the Kid's just going to lose. You give him a little something, and I get it. I understand it. But for some reason, these geniuses online are absolutely missing the point. They think he's shitting on Ring of Honor and Tony Khan. It's like, it's not even about Ring of Honor and Tony Khan. He's saying you can't just be a wrestler guy, and that's it. You have to be able to do a little bit more than that. You have to be entertaining. You have to be fun and funny. WWE's version of entertainment is a little stale because it's all just comedy. You can do more to be entertaining rather than just do comedy. I think people just see comedy as being entertaining, and it is. But comedy is hard. It's a skill set. It's a profession. It's a specific profession. There's people who study comedy. Everybody can't do it, So that's the one thing I would say WWE probably needs to move away from everybody does comedy, because comedy is hard. Comedy is very hard, and you're gonna miss more than you hit. And that's classic WWE within the last 5 to 10, 15 years actually. It's doing comedy that sometimes hits, sometimes doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. Or if it does hit, it doesn't hit the right way. It hits, in an awful way. And anytime they try to do anything else though, people complain. They try to do a serious storyline about alcoholism. People complain because they're talking about alcoholism. They try to do a serious storyline about fat shaming or something like that. Oh no, you're picking on the talent. You're Piggy James and, all this. It's like, we're not allowed to do anything but fucking comedy, because that's the only thing that doesn't really offend people. If you try to do anything else, people act a fool. And then they complain that there's too much comedy. It's like, how about allowing the soap, the story, to be told in other ways where, yes, you're going to be offended that, guys like Booker T are never going to be champions. But I can say that was, a mistake. The outcome to that was a mistake. I don't even have a problem with Triple H saying it. I have a problem with the outcome, with Triple H not getting his comeuppance. That was my problem. You have to be entertaining. You have to create sympathy. You have to create intrigue. And almost every time WWE comes up with something to create sympathy, people say, oh, you're just humiliating them. It's like, dumbass. Yes, it's a humiliation. Bullying is an effective weapon in getting sympathy for your babyface. Yes, heels are bullies. Sorry if that offends you, if that upsets you. But yes, Butch Reed called Junkyard Dog a coon. Just like Muhammad Ali when he called Sonny Liston a gorilla. Yes, it was offensive. It was meant to be offensive. It was offensive on purpose. But the point is to get people to watch this fucking fight. To get people invested in this fight. Even if it meant people wanted to see Ali get knocked out, the point was to get people invested in the fight. Floyd Mayweather worked heel for years. All he would do was go out there and trash talk people. You have an opinion on Floyd Mayweather, one way or the other. You can't ignore him. He's too good. But most people don't care about his technical expertise at boxing and his shoulder roll. They don't care. They just want to see the fucking guy get his ass kicked. Finally, hopefully, somebody will come out of the woodwork and beat the shit out of Floyd Mayweather. It ain't happened yet, but they want that. And they keep paying exorbitant fees to watch Floyd Mayweather fight on the hopes, the prayers that somebody finally knocks this motherfucker out or beats him on points, which it'll never actually happen. If you actually do beat Floyd Mayweather, you will have to knock him out cold in a way that is completely and totally undeniable. Otherwise, the cash cow is in danger. So no. But that's the point. You can even look at it from the perspective of other sports, mixed martial arts, the NBA. ESPN spends all day building up the stakes and what this game means for this player, or what this game means for this team, or this coach, or this specific fan who's going to be watching in the crowd, the parents of the player, or whatever. They're trying to create emotional investment, and people are very emotionally invested. That's why they flip over cars. That's why they burn cars over soccer games, because people are emotionally invested in the sport because they care. And to get people to care, part of it is going to be, yes, presenting the sport that they want to see, soccer. But you can't have a 24-hour soccer game. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a player, you're going to take a league, a team, something, and you're going to build upon that. And you're going to keep hitting that emotional drum, how this will feel if, for the first time in 40 years, this team is going to bring home a championship. And people are going to be like, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, that could be something. And people get involved. And yes, you're going to get some of the casual folks who don't even watch and get them involved. I remember, I wasn't in Detroit when the Pistons won the title in 2004, but I remember hearing about it. People who ain't watched basketball in ages, myself included, were watching those games against the Lakers. I couldn't tell you shit about basketball, and I ain't watched a basketball game in full since, if we're being honest. But I watched the game that the Pistons won the championship in because I'm from Detroit. And I was like, I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime that the Pistons would win a championship. I had to see it. I remember being a kid when they won championships and my dad being so excited. That's what I was thinking of in 2004 when I was 20 years old and the Pistons won a championship again. I remember when being a kid and being my dad being so excited for the Pistons winning the championship. That was emotional investment. I wasn't even in the city when it happened. I don't even watch basketball. And I'm just using myself as an example. That's all Road Dogg was saying. It's not a shot at Tony Khan. It's not a shot at Ring of Honor. Well, it is a shot at Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor was a place that was just wrestling. We want to have the best matches, the best athletic competition between these two guys. And that's fun. That's fine. That's great. Continue to do that. But that puts you out of business. Oh, but it was the pandemic. I'm like, well, they was in financial trouble before the pandemic. They already wasn't filling up buildings. All right. They was already struggling before the pandemic because the elite left. It just so happened that the elite was gone for like a year or two before the pandemic kicked in. But they already weren't doing well. The pandemic just hastened it. They just bled out faster because of the pandemic. So no, it wasn't a shot at Tony Khan. It is a simple truth and reality. Nobody cares about the technical aspects of anything in the United States. Nobody cares if you're technically a great actor. People want to be entertained. That's why Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger made so much money in movies. They weren't the best actors, but they wrote movies that people wanted to see. They created characters or interesting situations that people wanted to see. People wanted to see ripped guys fight terrorists, fight bad guys or whatever, and they created those movies. So what if he wasn't Daniel Day fucking Lewis? Nobody cares. Nobody cares if he was DiCaprio or not. That wasn't the fucking point. The point is he created movies that people wanted to see. Nobody cares about the technical aspects of rapping. It took me forever to get that because I was a backpack rap fan. I'm reading the lyrics, and it took me forever to realize these people don't even care if you're not literate anymore. You don't even have to be literate. They don't care about the technical aspects of flows and breaking down syllables they don't care. Nobody cares about that. That's nerd shit. They don't care. Is my girl going to bend over and twerk to it? That's the important thing. 90% of people, is my girl going to bend over and twerk to it? Or is me and my girls going to get drunk and bend over and twerk to it? That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Am I entertained? Is it funny? Because I tell you, there's plenty of songs out there, stupid as fuck, but people find them to be funny and entertaining, and all the Little John stuff, the Yin Yang Twins, all that shit. People find that stuff to be entertaining. They find it to be funny. And because they find it entertaining, it's funny, and people buy it and bought it and listen to it, and you can play it forever. Technically, it's not good. It's trash. I was yelling, it's trash in 2002. And maybe I was right. Didn't stop the Yin Yang Twins from selling more records than most of my favorite rappers. And it's just true. Is it a shame that I can say that people are stupid and uneducated? I'm the superior mind. I know what real rap is. Like, yeah, sure. You can rap the best bars of all time, but if nobody heard it, nobody gives a shit. And I remember what changed my mind is when I didn't like Cannabis. And I was like, Cannabis is trash. Technically good rapper, but boring as shit. And having those conversations with people, I was like, you know what? Nobody cares about the technical aspects of rap. Nobody gives a shit. All they find is the music entertaining? Do they like it? Can they play it in the car? Can they bump it? Can they girls, twerk to it? That's what they want to know. If the answer is yes, then the technical aspects of the rap doesn't matter that much. And wrestling is no different. Nobody cares about the greatness of your wrist lock and your Northern Light suplex. You know, The Rock could barely put on a sharpshooter. You know, his hip toss wasn't too bad. You know, his arm drag rather, it wasn't too bad. You know, it's nobody cares, man. That's all Road Dogg is saying, is that in the United States, and I can't tell you about anything else, but in the United States, nobody cares about the technical aspects of anything. All they care about is is it fun? Is it funny? You know, that's like when I forget who it was, but they criticized the Marvel movies. Oh, the Marvel movies are formulaic and it's not real cinema. I'm like, who gives a fuck? People want to watch Iron Man. If I wanted to watch fucking Godfather, I'd watch Godfather. If I wanted to watch Casino, I'd watch Casino. I don't want to see Casino. I want to see fucking Iron Man. I want to see Captain America fight terrorists. Fuck you. I don't need the Captain America to be Godfather. I don't need that. I don't care about your cinematography and what kind of cameras you use. I don't care. I don't care about the technical aspects of movie making. I care about whether the movie is entertaining. Am I going to watch it and get bored? That's why so many of these movies, these small art house films, they're fucking boring. The stories are stupid as fuck. You know, girl rides a bike through a wheat field to meet the lover she hasn't seen in 25 years. And you're like, ugh. You see like stacks of novels written on this crap. It's technically proficient as hell. Neil Gaiman novels are like that. They're technically greatly written, but they're boring as fuck. Boring plots, boring characters. It's all boring. Nobody gives a fuck. And only a small number of people actually give a fuck about that. You know, I got to the point where I was reading fucking Neil Gaiman novels. I was just like, this motherfucker just don't care. He just don't care. Like I saw, what was this, American Gods? Where Neil Gaiman wrote like 10 pages on what they were driving past in a wheat field in Indianapolis or Indiana or some shit like that. I was like, this shit is awful. It's so fucking boring. And they were about to make a TV show out of it. Well, okay, well, do you, boo? You know? Nobody cares about the technical aspects of this shit. They just want to know if it's entertaining or not. Are they entertained? If they're entertained by it, then they will continue doing it. If not, then it goes by the wayside. That's really all that matters. That's all Road Dogg was saying. How could you get mad at that? It's absolute fact. It's absolute truth. And it applies to everything. There's going to be a little bit of glitz and glamour and carny in everything. In everything. That should not be a surprise to anybody. It should not be a surprise to anybody. All right. Like, share, and subscribe. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question